What is up, everybody, and welcome. In today's video, we're going to be taking a super sweet look at these two TuffKnives Deadites. We have a full-size Deadite as well as a mini Deadite, and I am super pumped to be able to bring these knives to you guys. These are, of course, on loan. Those of you who saw my unboxing video will know who they're on loan from, but they do come to us from the man, the myth, the legend, Heels with Steel on Instagram, guys. His name is Mike. Super kind dude. Sent tons of awesome knives to check out, and we're going to go ahead and dive in with this pair here. The first thing we're going to jump into is just taking a really close look at the aesthetics on these knives, because they are absolutely freaking gorgeous, and I must say the aesthetics are probably some of the best parts about these knives. So let's go ahead first and check out the full size. Bit of mokume action going on here. Let's get a quick wipe of this amazing Damasteel blade. Not too much to wipe down here. Now I really sort of like the theme that's going on with this one. Kind of kept it simple. You know, you've still got the just sort of plain titanium handles, which are going to serve you well in a daily carry scenario. Of course, you have this gorgeous Damasteel blade with that amazing reflective sort of finishing done under the etch. You can sort of see everything in the room pretty, like, almost as clearly or more clearly than like some mirror blades that I've even had on the channel. So absolutely freaking gorgeous. Now personally, I prefer a deep etch on my Damasteel, but this looks really good. Flip it over, check it out from this side. Of course, we have that same pattern continued. Gorgeous swedge down the blade here. Awesome, I don't know, you might call that zero ground if you were so inclined, on the convex tip here. Just a little bit of a recurve going on as well. As you can see, quite a bit of belly into just a hump of recurve. This is a great little choil, but is not going to fit your finger. I mean, you could get the tip in there, but it's sharp all the way to the edge there, so not recommended. And then that theme that I was talking about before, the mokume, check it out. We've got these gorgeous thumb studs. Look at it from this angle. There we go. These pivot collars. And one nice big chunk at the ass here. Oop, looks like I touched that with my finger. Let's get that wiped down. Get a nice proper look. Gorgeous. He did a really good job finishing this material. Now, if we take a look at the clip here, it's got kind of a cool, interesting design. Just take a look. It's got that almost that zigzaggy, almost lightning bolt shape to it. But ultimately, if you look dead on, it's not really offset, you know, any further than a regular clip might be offset. And what this does is it actually allows for placement in the center of the knife, sort of where it is preferred, but the pressure is offset to the actual frame itself, and therefore any pressure put on the clip while trying to open the knife or, you know, hang on to the clip because it's thumb studs, you know, you have that pressure where you're pushing the knife this way, and so you're kind of using the clip to hang on. That pressure does not put added pressure onto the lock bar, and so you don't have any issues with deployment there. that's something that I can definitely appreciate. You know, it's sort of a cool, interesting clip design that follows the design language of the rest of the knife, but then ultimately serves a functional purpose. So I'm a big fan of this. Now, I must say, his clip doesn't have the most tension, so you can't hear it tap against the frame. Certainly not something that I'm super stoked about. We do have this reverse hardware, though, of course. If we wanted to, we could take this knife apart, get a little bit more tension in that clip, and then we wouldn't have this clicking issue. Now, that's just a personal pet peeve, and I'm sure that's something that you could have Jeff of Tough Knives take care of for you on a custom order. And let's go ahead and take a look at the aesthetics on the Mini. Now, this thing, obviously, is the little baby stunner of the pair. All right, so as we take a look at this guy, there is a super special feature that those of you who watch the unboxing video will know about. And as we take a look at this gorgeous full Timascus or Mokutai show scale, we flip it over and bam, it's a bolster lock. Unbelievable. Those of you who saw that video will know that my reaction was quite impressive, I guess, or astounded, I guess you could say I was. Because, I don't know, I feel like anytime you get this sort of Timascus show scale going on, either, you know, if it's a liner lock, then usually the reverse side has sort of the full Timascus as well, or if it's a frame lock, then you almost always get sort of just that plain titanium lock side or something like that. So the fact that, and I'm not saying this has never been done before, but I've never personally seen it, and so the fact that there was the forethought here to, it's really cool, sort of, you can kind of get a feel for what's going on here if you look at it like this, right? Because you have the full, it's like a, you know, full frame lock on this side with the Timascus, and then you have, of course, the Timascus backspacer, and then you just get the titanium and the bolster. So, I don't know, I just thought this was super cool, and I think it really makes the knife unique and special, and I love, of course, the matching Timascus pivot collar and the thumb studs as well. The clip is, well, there's no need for it to be offset or anything for the lock bar, but you can see it's got kind of a slimmed down design because it's a smaller knife, not a lot of room to be zigzagging across the whole frame, which is kind of interesting. So I want to say, I think that these studs, the Mokutai and Mokume thumb studs, I believe are handmade because they are not even on both sides, and these ones kind of come loose sometimes after a few flicks. So I think these are handmade, which is super cool. I don't think you see a lot of people these days, too many, at least in like the tactical knife market, actually sort of sole authorship their thumb studs there. I think that was pretty neat. Maybe he bought them from, you know, somebody else who makes them. You know, maybe they have the threads and everything are, you know, purchased and everything, and I understand that, but whether it was Jeff himself who made these by hand or somebody else, you know, it's just something that I really appreciate on the knife, and it definitely helps to bring both of the knives together, because I think a lot of times we get just sort of a colored titanium thumb stud or something like that, and that's great, but it's really nice that these two knives, I think, both accentuate sort of exotic materials in their own special ways, and so the fact that the thumb studs match, I just think does both of these an absolute justice. And again, when we look at the smaller one, we never really talked about the blade. If we get a direct comparison here, you can kind of see the recurve is much stronger on the full size. The small one here, it is a recurve, but it is borderline flat here. And so you do have, of course, the shorter blade overall, a little less upswept as well because it doesn't quite extend as far. So those are just some subtle design differences that I've noticed between the two different sizes. Of course, you can see we have a similar Damasteel pattern on this blade with a similarly gorgeous mirror finish underneath the etch. Same convex tip. Beautiful swedge. Look at that angle. Oh my goodness. These knives are gorgeous. And let's go ahead and talk about the action on these guys. So kind of interesting. The full-size one here is pretty mediocre. You can see it's got some pretty bad lock stick. I did what I would normally do to address that, and it just seems that there's something. I would have to disassemble the knife, which I'm not going to do because it's on loan, and mess with the actual lock face of the lock bar, because there appears to be some sort of like buildup or gunk or something that's in there that's gritty, and it is not applying itself to the lock face here. It seems to only be on the titanium, so I don't really have access to it because the knife's either open and I can't really get in there, or it's closed and I still really can't get in there. So it's got some pretty bad stick, but you know, let's just say we could figure that out. The knife is not bad. Particularly, I really like the deployment. The middle finger flick off the reverse side of the knife, it's strong. It feels good in the hand. It feels very similar to my Gavco knives Leopard that I have. So I really like the deployment on this one. Both with the thumb and the reverse finger flick works very well. Now, in terms of closing, you can see a couple light shakes definitely gets it to get into that close position, but this is not a particularly smooth knife, I really must admit. But I will say this full-size one, being in the full tie, just this particular knife as it sits, I think would make a very good EDC model. Because you have this light etch here, it even looks like Mike himself has used this knife and put some scratches in this etch. Because it's such a light etch, it's very hard to see those scratches. It hides wear very well, in my opinion. And with this full titanium handle, I think you have a really nice balance of dressy and great EDC in this folder. Again, you have the great clip design. I think it's a very EDC-able size. It fits very well in the hand. It's super slim, so you can definitely get confident, but you have a nice big blade to work with. I think it's going to work very well for slicing. You have this huge belly up at the front here, and of course the recurve's not going to do too much for you unless you're cutting down through something, but again, I mean, you have at least 2.5 almost 3 inches of totally almost normal blade up at the front here, which is going to work really great. And so just generally speaking, I just think that this is overall a really good user knife, honestly, if I was going to have it myself. And the fact that the action's a little bit stiffer than I might normally prefer on a typical knife is not something that I find to be a downside on this exact knife. Although if I was going to order perhaps a more dressy version of one of these, I would want it to have a little bit better of an action. But as we move to the small one, some of those features are better and some are worse. So right off the bat, we actually have a much smoother action on the bearings. I know that looked like it took more effort than it actually did, but it's much smoother on the bearings. It's still a little bit rumbly insofar as I do not believe the Damasteel etch is actually polished off on either of these knives, but it does drop shut with sort of less of a shake, or sort of more freely, even if the amount of shake is the same, just because the blade is smaller and weighs less. It definitely feels more free. Now, the reverse finger flick works very well. You can see I'm having a lot of success with that. That's definitely my preferred method of deployment on this one. The thumb stud, however, that right there, that deployment is probably the first good thumb stud deployment I've ever had on this knife since I got it on loan. I have a lot of trouble with sort of, wow. I guess it's just going to work now, guys. The thumb stud's great. It works great. Not a problem at all. Yeah, wow, 3 in a row. Are you kidding me? Jesus Christ. All right, enough of that. I was having a much harder time thumb flicking this up until this moment. Wow, why is it doing this like that? That's crazy. See, that's what would normally happen to me, is it would sort of like fart out like that. That's so weird that I was rocking it for a second there. But yeah, guys, as far as these knives are concerned, you know, this one's a little bit dressier. I don't know if I would totally EDC this little guy, but man, the fact that it's a bolster lock makes me absolutely love it. If I was going to own one of these, I think I'd get the full size, because the full size is on the slimmer side. And I just think with the clip shape, you get a little bit more out of that. I think you get a little bit more usability out of the blade. The weight difference is not really fair, because these are sort of two different things going on here. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. I definitely think I prefer the larger one if I was going to order one myself. But just bear in mind, if you do ever reach out and action is something that you are considering, be sure to let your maker know that that's something that you're interested in. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Of course, if you'd like to see beautiful pictures of these knives, first of all, you should go check out at Heals with Steel. That's HEALS with Steel on Instagram. He is, of course, the owner of these fine knives. Go check me out at tovarishworks on Instagram. Email me at tovarishworks@gmail.com for any reason whatsoever. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.